Hello, and welcome back to Copilot Learning Hub. Today, we're going to talk about all things data. So many of you have asked, what is going on with the world of data and AI? And we know AI cannot exist without data. So we need to get our data in order. We need to make sure it's correct, clean, and ready to use. There's no one better to help us with this than my friend Josh, who's in Nairobi, who's going to introduce himself and tell us a little something about data and Copilots. Hey, Josh, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Josh. I'm a cloud developer advocate for the data team, and I'm excited today to share what we're doing with Copilots in the data space. How can you as a data professional leverage Copilot?
I love that. So when we say data professional, what exactly does that mean?
All right, so I'm going to share my screen here. And for today, because we have several Copilots across different products, so for today, we'll be focusing on Copilots on Microsoft Fabric.
Perfect. This is a very intriguing space for people. I know you recently all had a Fabric conference, and you debuted a lot of Copilot experiences. I'd love a sneak peek of what all you talked about there.
Right. Yeah, so Microsoft Fabric is an end-to-end data analytics platform that allows you to go from your data to the business user. So on Fabric, we have these different 7 experiences, from Data Factory that allows you to bring data into Microsoft Fabric, all the way to Data Activator that allows you to go from insights to action. Now, on Microsoft Fabric, we have different data teams. I mentioned it's a unified data platform. So that means even for the data professionals, they are able to work together on data projects. Now, some of the data teams that leverage Microsoft Fabric include data engineers. So you can think of data engineers being able to integrate data from different sources. They're able to transform this and then curate these data for use by the other personas. So in Microsoft Fabric, they'll start using tools like Data Factory, Data Warehouse, and even data engineering tools.
Okay, what I love about this is all of these different roles, they can all play together in the same sandbox of Microsoft Fabric. That is really, really awesome.
Exactly.
So, do you mind sharing a little bit about the data engineer role? I know that's a role that is extremely important because without that, all of the other roles don't really matter. But many people are not quite sure how to use the Fabric tools to do data engineering.
Yeah, so for the data engineer on Microsoft Fabric, they're able to connect to unstructured, structured, and even streaming data sources. You all have those capabilities built into Microsoft Fabric. They are also able to ingest data at scale with things like pipelines and data flows. And then they are also able to transform the data that they're ingesting using data flows and even procedures in notebooks.
Okay, that is awesome. Do you mind showing us a little bit of something?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So for this particular episode, we'll jump into Microsoft Fabric and see how Copilot can help you as a data engineer in your daily workflow. Right. And here I'm in Microsoft Fabric. This is the Data Factory workload. So I'll be loading some data from a SQL database, perform some transformations, and I'm going to leverage the power of Copilot and then load that data into the Lakehouse.
Okay, so which job role would be using this specifically?
This would be a data engineer.
Okay, very cool.
Yes. Right. So I have a database. I'm loading from the Wide World Importers database. I'm just going to select a few tables here, and then I'm going to go ahead and create the connection to the database. All right. Okay, so you can be able to see the tables that I've been able to pull from the SQL database, and I have some nice visualization here. I can be able to see the visualizations for these tables, and down here I can be able to actually see the data. Right?
Okay, perfect.
And yeah, and on top of this ribbon, you can be able to see we do have a Copilot button here. Right? Perfect. And I've just loaded the data. I think we can start by trying to see what can Copilot help us get started. Every time you start a workload, you're always hit with this wall of complexity. Where do I start? It's a blank canvas. So we can be able to see what Copilot can be able to help us do. So you can be able to see Copilot can be able to get data, add a step, describe the query. So I can select one of the queries, like the sales orders queries. And after selecting that, I can go ahead and ask Copilot to describe this query for me.
Oh, this is interesting. So Copilot's going to explain to you what exactly is happening here.
Exactly. and can be able to see Copilot goes ahead and gives an explanations of the sales orders query. It says that this query is connecting to the demo dataset server, and then it selects the order tables from the sales schema, and it goes ahead and gives you a good description for that. All right.
I love this, especially if you didn't build the query, right? It would be something like, what the heck does this query mean? And then you get Copilot to explain it to you versus having to call your colleague and trying to hunt down who did build it. That's great.
Yes, exactly. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get started here and ask Copilot to actually create a query for me that joins two tables. So I'm just going to give it a query there to join the sales orders table and the sales order lines table. All right, let's try that again. Right, so there we go. So Copilot joins these two tables, and you can see I didn't even specify which column it's going to join on top of. It's going to look at the two tables, identify the relationship, and then go ahead and do the join.
Josh, you know I love it when Copilot does our work for us. This is awesome. This is cool. I like this a lot because for those of us who may not be joining table experts, it's kind of helpful to have Copilot do this for us. Not to be lazy, but
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Okay, what else? What happens after this?
I can actually ask you to join the table it just created with another existing table. So I'm just going to ask you to join the query table it just created with the customers table. And this happens sometimes. This happens sometimes, and then there you go. It goes ahead and joins the query it generated with an already existing query. And now, what happens is sometimes you just don't want something Copilot created. So you have this undo button down here because it's a Copilot, not an autopilot, right. And you can always undo and revert. So like I can always clear a query that Copilot went ahead and generated for me.
I love that. That is really cool. Okay. Because you're not just creating new things, you're also building on top of what exists.
Exactly. So I'm going to rename this query that Copilot created for us. I'm going to rename it to order details. Okay.
Okay.
And then I'm going to add a new step because Copilot is helping me, but I'm also working on the same query that Copilot created. So I'm just going to go ahead and perform some transformation myself. Select a few more columns. I'm just going to select order ID, customer ID, select salesperson ID. I'll also select the order date. That's selected, and then quantity and order line ID, like that. Okay. All right, so I've selected a few columns for myself, and the next thing I'm going to do, I might not know how to write a filter, so I'm just going to ask Copilot to do the filter for me. So, just give me the orders where the quantity was actually greater than 1. So,
I like that.
Go ahead and prompt it. Exactly, and it continues building on top of the same query that we started with.
Right, because now you're asking Copilot, what does this data even say? Okay, cool. Yeah.
The other key power of Copilot is its ability to help you do automate some of the mundane tasks. Like, for example, you can see all these columns. I would love them to be a little bit readable, like the order ID have some spacing between the two words. So what if I can just do that in bulk by just asking Copilot to actually rename the columns for me into a more readable format instead of me having to do that manually. So I can go ahead and ask Copilot, rename the columns for me into a readable format with the space between each of the words.
Oh, I like that. Okay, so some of this work that you would have to do manually, Copilot can automate this, and it already has the context of which table you're at, which query, etc., which is great.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. And now we can begin doing some more complex stuff. Like we've done some filters. We can try doing some grouping. So we can try grouping this data now by the salesperson ID and the order date, and then get a count of the total number of orders. So I'm going to ask Copilot to do that for me. And there you go. Very fast. Does the join for me.
Okay, I love that. It's now actually doing things that would take you 30 minutes? It would take me a very long time to do this, but it would take you, a data professional, probably like 30 minutes to do this versus the 2 seconds this just took.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, when we get to a point like this, suppose I needed to find, maybe I can see we have a salesperson ID. We can see the total number of orders that were also made at that day, and also the date. What if we needed to identify whether a certain sale or a certain order was placed during a public holiday? Now, how would we even get started, and we don't even have the number of holidays between 2016 and 2013? Oh. Now, that's where the power of Copilot comes in, because I can go ahead and ask Copilot to give me a list of all holidays between these dates. Now, here we are tapping into the power of generative AI as well to generate an entire new data set that we actually don't have. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Copilot to create for me a new query called holidays that has a list of all US holidays from 2013 to 2016. And there you go. It goes ahead and gets me all the holidays. So now here we are tapping into the actual power of generative AI. And then from this part now, I can go ahead and join this new table that we've created, the holidays table. So I'm going to go ahead and rename this to holidays. And then join the holidays table to the order details table. And then we can see whether there were any orders made during holidays.
Okay, that is cool.
There you go.
This is very,
there you go.
Yeah.
There is, exactly. So we can see no orders were made during holidays. So we've been able to tap into the power of generative AI. Apart from leveraging the data that we actually have, we're able to also we are also able to tap into the power of generative AI and generate data and use that to enrich the data that we already have.
What I like about this is me, a business user, would just be able to use this to give me insights about what's in these tables, what are in these workloads, without actually having to know how the tables were made, how they were joined, how the queries were created, et cetera, et cetera.
And so that's how within Data Factory, when you're working with ingesting data, this is how you can be able to leverage Copilot to work with you in the flow.
I love that.
So yeah, so once we're done, we can go ahead and publish these data into our lakehouse. Mm-hmm. And yep, so I'm going to go ahead and publish that.
That was so cool, Josh. It was so interesting for me to see how a data engineer uses Copilot to do the daily parts of the job.
Yes, Donna, in how Copilot actually empowers the whole data integration flow, making you work faster to bring your data into Microsoft Fabric.
Yeah, and the common scenario of this is not the data I created, this is not the queries I created, but somehow I have to understand it and make rhyme or reason out of it. Such a common use case, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so next time, I would love for you to join us again and teach us how to use one of our favorite products that is always a little bit mysterious to me, which is Power BI. Right? As business users, we often receive a Power BI and we're expected to do something out of it, but it's very hard to know what to do. So everyone, thank you so much, Josh, for joining us today. And to all of you, join us next time for Copilot Learning Hub. Thank you.